Okay, starting this video, there's a view of the pot when it's completed with the throwing, and we'll scoot on over here to the throwing of the piece. So here I'm just wetting down the bat. This clay was wedged on my plaster of Paris canvas covered board. So I like to do that with even de-aired clay. It always gives me an even consistency. So here I'm starting to center the clay, toss it down, pat it a few times just to give it a rough rounding out. Basically, it's not centered, totally centered, but it's basically in the ballpark. So here I'm actually centering the clay and pulling it up and down a few times just to, again, just make sure it's mixed really well and consistent. So sometimes I just one time, two times, and three times as far as pulling it up and down. But in this case here, I'm starting to spread it out now, opening it up a little bit. I'm going to have to leave a certain thickness on the bottom. I don't want it too thin or too thick, but at least a quarter-inch thick. When it's completed or when it's leather hard, it'll be flipped over and there'll be a relief cut on the bottom there so it doesn't wobble. And it'll make it a little bit lighter also. So here I'm starting to just check out the base of that there. And I'm just going to double check the thickness here with the pen tool just to make sure it looks good. So here I'm just going to spread it out a little more, make sure it's about as flat as possible. Now I'm starting to do a pull on the clay here, the first one. Feels nice and smooth. Doesn't seem to wobble. I didn't feel any air bubbles. Doing a second pull on it here, it'll go up a little bit higher. Basically a third pull. I'm leaving a little bit of extra thickness at the top there for the lip, but it's going to come up a little bit more here. Again, the clay is nice and smooth. I don't feel any chunks of clay that's like a little ball of hard clay in there or lumpy clay. No air bubbles or anything like that, so that always feels real good. Doing another pull on it here. I'm trying to make sure that the thickness just tapers down slightly because I have to spread it out, as you can see on the right. So I don't want it too thin at the top because it'd be really hard to throw a pot that's relatively rounded out like that if it's too thin at the top. It just doesn't have a lot of clay there to have a lot of strength, especially being a little more moist than it is at the beginning. So I'm doing another real fine, easy touch pull on it here. There's the pot on the right side. You can see I left the trail marks of my fingers in the inside just for a cosmetic appearance. A lot of times I take them out, but in this case I left them in there. And then the base is relatively smooth. So here with the rib on the outside, I'm just sort of flattening it out, cleaning up some of the slurry on the outside a little bit. So it's pretty much a cylindrical shape. Here I am using the tool to leave a little fillet or curve on the inside where the base moves on up into the wall. Here I'm adding a little slurry on the outside because now I'm going to start spreading this bowl out. There's a little bit of slurry on the inside also. So with my two hands working together, I've got the rib on the outside and my hand and the sponge on the inside. I'm going to start to open this little cylinder of clay. Try to make it a little more round like you can see on the right. So this will be the first run at that. I'm going to leave a little bead at the top for the lip. So here again, I try to keep the sponge, my finger on the inside, pretty much in line with the rib on the outside. As you can see, the rib, it changes the angle as I go on up. I don't know how to try to explain that other than it's kind of perpendicular to the center point of the bowl from the top to the bottom or bottom to the top. So I'm going to do another spread on this piece here, or pull. I'm going to pull it up and spread it out a little bit more. And again, the clay's getting a little moister, so we're going to be a little more careful with each time. But again, being that it's has a nice cylinder shape and it's not wobbly, it's a lot easier. You just have to maintain that though as you go through there. So here I've spread out the clay a little bit more. As you can see, it's taking a little more of a round shape. So I'm just doing some very gentle little touches here and there to give it the kind of a curve I want to see on the piece when it's completed. Same thing over again here. Just real light with the rib, not too hard. Certainly not using the rib like I did the first few times when I did the first 2 or 3 pulls, because right now the clay is a lot thinner, a little moister, so we have to be real careful with it there. And you notice the speed on it is not as much. It's not moving along quite as fast as it did at the beginning. A bowl like this with a high speed, of course, would just spread out and collapse. So I'm using the chamois just to clean up the lip a little bit, make it nice and smooth. Here I'm just doing a little fine touch up here with the rib on the outside and sponging my fingers on the inside. Just moving along real slowly, both the wheel and my hands. Okay, so here I'm going to use this little steel rod. I'm going to leave a nice little curve at the base of the lip, kind of a nice curved transaction from the wall of the pot up to the lip. So it looks nice and smooth all the way around. And I'm just going to do a quick little modification. I'm going to add a little more of a curve to the upper part of this bowl. It won't really stand out too much, but you'll see there's a little more of a little wider radius at the top here. Then I'll just touch up a few. So right now you see a few kind of different surfaces. I'm just going to smooth out the different radiuses from one to another so that it looks kind of smooth all the way down to the bottom of the bowl. It leaves me less work to do later when it's leather hard. I don't have to carve as much off by being real gentle with it at this stage right here. Most of the material taken off will be on the base when I flip it upside down and relief carve the base of the pot so it doesn't tilt. So basically here I'm just cleaning up the base a little bit, taking extra clay off there so that it dries about as smoothly as the walls do. It's a little thicker down there, but I don't want to leave a big bulge of clay down there so that it just takes a lot longer. The thick areas would be a lot moister and they'd shrink less in the walls, and so there's always a chance of having some sort of crack. So here's the finished piece right here, and this will be fired when it's leather hard. It'll be stained, it'll be relief carved, and then it'll be fired in my scut kiln to cone 5.